I know what you're thinking right now. Yes, I am exactly the person whose wife cheated on me with an acquaintance of mine in my own house. Am I stupid? Yes. Was I blind? Undoubtedly. Am I glad that this still happened? Absolutely. This incident saved me from people absolutely unnecessary to me and gave me an incredible experience. I only feel sorry for my children, whose mother turned out to be. However, you yourself understand. Now sit back and listen to my Santa Barbara. I've always considered myself a lucky guy. I mean, I've got it all, 2 amazing kids, Emily and Jack. I have a successful business that's kept us comfortable for years, and of course I had a beautiful wife, Sarah. However, this beauty later played a cruel joke on me, huh? We live in a lovely suburban neighborhood with neighbors who've become good friends over time. Life couldn't be better. I met Sarah during my college days. It was a typical Saturday night in the early 10s, and I was out with my buddies at a crowded downtown bar. The music was blaring, the lights were dim, and the atmosphere was electric. We had just ordered our drinks when I noticed a group of girls laughing and chatting at a table nearby. One of them, a stunning brunette with piercing green eyes, caught my attention. She was wearing a simple white blouse and jeans, but there was something about her that just screamed elegance. As the night went on, I found myself continuously stealing glances at her. Her laugh was infectious, her smile magnetic, and her personality was warm and inviting. I decided to make my move. With a little bit of liquid courage and some encouragement from my friends, I approached her and her friends. I introduced myself and struck up a conversation. We talked about everything from college life to our favorite movies and bands. I was captivated by her intelligence and wit. As the night wore on, we found ourselves talking more and more, eventually moving to a quieter spot away from the noise of the bar. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I found myself completely enamored with her. When the bar finally closed, we exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet up again soon. Over the next few weeks, we spent countless hours getting to know each other, laughing and sharing stories. Our connection only grew stronger, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. Finally, after what felt like hours, I found the courage to approach her. I introduced myself and asked if she and her friends would like to join my buddies and me for a round of drinks. To my delight, she agreed, and I found myself sitting across from her, struggling to keep my cool. As the night wore on, we talked and laughed, sharing stories about our lives and our dreams for the future. The more I learned about her, the more I realized how special she was. I knew that I had to see her again, and soon. Over the next few weeks, our fledgling relationship blossomed, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. We spent our days exploring the city, our nights wrapped in each other's arms. It was as if the world had melted away, leaving only Sarah and me. However, our happiness was short-lived. One day, Sarah approached me with a heavy heart, telling me she had been accepted into a prestigious university in France as an exchange student. She was overjoyed at the opportunity, but I couldn't help but feel devastated. How could I let her go? We spent the next few months clinging to each other, trying to savor every moment we had together. When the day finally came for Sarah to leave, I stood on the tarmac, tears streaming down my face as I watched her plane take off. I felt as though my heart was being ripped from my chest. For the next 3 years, I struggled to cope with the loss of Sarah. I threw myself into my work, trying to distract myself from the pain. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. I thought about her constantly, wondering how she was doing and if she ever thought of me. Then one day, I received a letter. It was from Sarah, and in it, she told me how much she missed me and how she longed to be back in our hometown. She had finished her studies in France and was returning home. I couldn't believe my luck. My love was coming back to me. As the days passed, my excitement grew. I spent hours daydreaming about our reunion, imagining the look on her face when she saw me again. Finally, the day arrived, and I rushed to the airport, eager to embrace the love of my life. When I saw her, my heart skipped a beat. She looked more beautiful than ever, and as we wrapped our arms around each other, it felt as though no time had passed at all. We spent the next few weeks rekindling our love, exploring our hometown as if we were teenagers again. And so, our story continued. Through the ups and downs, the heartache and the joy, Sarah and I remained inseparable. We faced challenges together, supporting each other through thick and thin. Actually, we've been through a lot. This woman has always seemed to me the most faithful. Guys, she stayed with me when I was absolutely broke. We couldn't even pay rent and had over $12,000 in debt. I was sure that she was a real keeper, or whatever it is fashionable to say today. In 2013, I opened my own company. I will not specify what it is because it is too non-confidential. Everything was going well until a fire broke out in my warehouses in 2016. I was up to my ears in debt and everything burned completely. In general, there is no business, no goods. I have a loan hanging on me, debts for the apartment. We have a child who goes to school, grows up and wants to satisfy his needs. It's a stalemate, let me tell you. But Sarah was my hope and shield all this time. Every day she tried to completely cover all everyday moments, cook food, help our child with school, while I worked like a horse. In general, despite what happened recently, we must admit that she was a real woman. Beautiful, caring. There was a time. But let's put aside my useless nostalgia, because now you'll start thinking that she's the perfect woman and I'm the asshole who somehow made her cheat on me. Soon you will understand everything. As the years went by, I found myself in a much better place. My debts were a distant memory, and I was ready to take on the world once again. I knew that I had to make up for lost time, and I was determined to succeed. In 2018, I took a leap of faith and started my own business. It wasn't easy, but I was driven by the desire to provide a better life for my family. I worked long hours, pouring my heart and soul into my work. I faced countless challenges and setbacks, but I refused to give up. As the months passed, my business began to take off. Customers were flocking to my store, and I was making more money than I ever thought possible. I was finally on the path to success, and I couldn't have been happier. In the midst of all this, my wife and I received the greatest gift of all. Our daughter was born. She was the light of our lives, and we were both overjoyed to welcome her into the world. As I held her in my arms for the first time, I knew that I had to keep pushing forward, for her sake and for the sake of my family. As I watched her grow and learn, I began to experience a new period of growth in my life as well. I found myself becoming more patient, more empathetic, and more focused on the things that truly mattered. I learned to appreciate the simple pleasures in life, like watching my daughter take her first steps or hearing her laugh. The white streak had begun, and with it came a newfound sense of purpose and determination. I was no longer just working for myself. I was working to build a better life for my family. And as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I knew that I would do whatever it took to make that happen. I poured everything I had into my business, and before long, it had grown into something truly remarkable. I had a team of dedicated employees, loyal customers, and a reputation for excellence in my industry. I was proud of what I had accomplished, and I knew that I had finally found my place in the world. Sarah and I had reached a new level of intimacy and understanding in our relationship. We were both fully committed to making our family work, and we were willing to put in the effort to make it happen. We had a clear division of responsibilities within the family, and we both understood and respected each other's roles. Sarah was an incredible mother, and her dedication to our children was unmatched. She was always there for them, providing love and support whenever they needed it. She was also a fantastic cook, and she would often whip up delicious meals for the entire family. When it came to sex, our relationship was ideal. We were both incredibly attracted to each other, and our physical connection was always strong. We made a point of setting aside time for each other, ensuring that our relationship remained a priority. Our children were thriving under our care. They were healthy, happy, and well-adjusted, and we were both proud of the job we were doing as parents. We had created a loving and supportive home for them, and it was clear that they felt safe and secure in our care. I could not even dream of such a life. Everything was literally perfect until COVID hit in 2020. The pandemic wreaked havoc on our lives, just like it did for millions of families around the world. We had to adapt to new ways of living, working, and learning, and it was a difficult adjustment for all of us. Our children were forced to attend school online, which was a far cry from the traditional classroom experience they were accustomed to. They missed their friends and teachers, and the lack of social interaction took a toll on their mental health. Sarah and I did our best to support them, but it was a challenging time for everyone. The pandemic also affected our finances. With businesses closing and jobs being lost, we had to tighten our belts and make some difficult decisions. We had to cut back on certain luxuries and focus on the essentials, but we were grateful to have each other and our health. At first, everything was perfect, a picture of happiness and contentment. Sarah and I were living the dream, and our children were thriving in a loving and nurturing environment. It was a beautiful painting that many people could only dream of. However, with the emergence of the COVID pandemic, everything changed. The world was thrown into chaos, and the once peaceful landscape of our life was shattered. The pandemic brought with it a sense of fear and uncertainty that seeped into every aspect of daily life. As Sarah tried to navigate the new normal, she became increasingly nervous and anxious. The stress of the pandemic, coupled with the challenges of adapting to remote work and homeschooling, took a toll on her mental health. She was no longer the same person I had married, and it was as if she had been replaced by a stranger. The once harmonious family dynamic was disrupted as Sarah lashed out at the children and me, often with little provocation. The tension in our household was palpable, and the joy that once characterized our life together began to fade away. Our intimate life also suffered as a result of the pandemic's impact on our relationship. The stress and anxiety that Sarah was experiencing made it difficult for her to connect with me on an emotional and physical level. The passion and desire that once fueled our relationship were replaced by a sense of distance and disconnection. Despite the challenges we faced, I remained committed to supporting Sarah and giving her the time and space she needed to process and adapt to the changes brought on by the pandemic. I tried to be understanding and patient, even when it felt like I was walking on eggshells around her. I made a conscious effort to listen to her concerns and fears, offering words of encouragement and support whenever I could. I tried to create a safe space for her to express herself without judgment or criticism, knowing that the pandemic had affected everyone in different ways. I also made a point of prioritizing my own self-care, recognizing that I couldn't be there for her if I didn't take care of myself first. I went for walks, practiced meditation, and engaged in activities that brought me joy and relaxation. As the pandemic continued to unfold, I noticed small improvements in Sarah's demeanor. She began to laugh more, and the tension in her shoulders seemed at ease. I could see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, and it gave me hope that things would eventually return to normal. As time passed, things started to get better. Sarah and I found a new rhythm in our relationship, and the effects of the pandemic began to subside. The world slowly started to return to normal, and with it, our family life followed suit. But as the dust settled, Sarah began to focus more on herself. She wanted to build a career, pursue her passions, and achieve her own personal goals. It was a natural progression, and I could see the determination and excitement in her eyes. I always wanted the best for her, and I understood that she needed to grow and develop as an individual. I believed that by supporting her in her endeavors, we could strengthen our relationship and build a stronger foundation for our family. Initially, Sarah and I discussed her goals and aspirations, and we came up with a plan that would allow her to balance her career ambitions with her responsibilities as a mother and wife. This included hiring a part-time nanny to help with the children and adjusting our schedules to accommodate her work commitments. I made it my mission to provide for the whole family, and I worked tirelessly to ensure that we had the financial stability and resources necessary to support Sarah's newfound ambitions. I took on additional projects at work, networked with industry professionals, and even explored new business opportunities to increase our income. I remember the night of the fight as if it were yesterday. I had come home from work, tired and drained, and all I wanted was to be with Sarah, to feel her warmth and comfort. But when I suggested we spend some time together, she dismissed me, saying she had important projects to work on. I felt a surge of anger and frustration rise within me. I had been patient and understanding for so long, but it seemed like Sarah was always prioritizing her career over our relationship. I couldn't help but feel like I was being taken for granted, like my needs and desires didn't matter. As I sat there fuming, I realized that I couldn't keep suppressing my emotions any longer. I needed to stand up for myself and make it clear that I wasn't going to be ignored. So I got up and confronted Sarah, demanding that she acknowledge my feelings and give me the attention I deserved. At first, Sarah was taken aback by my outburst. She had never seen me like this before, and it was clear that she was caught off guard. But as I continued to express my frustration, she began to understand the depth of my emotions. We argued back and forth, each of us trying to make our case and defend our position. I screamed, she screamed. The sound of our voices echoed through the house, bouncing off the walls and amplifying our anger and frustration. I saw how the children looked at it, their eyes wide with shock and confusion. They had never seen us quarrel like this before, and the tension in the air was palpable. My nerves were like a taut string, ready to snap at any moment. It felt like the world was closing in on us, and all I could think about was getting out of there and escaping the chaos that was enveloping us. But I knew that I couldn't just run away. I had to face this head-on and find a way to resolve it. As I looked at the children, I could see the fear in their eyes. They didn't understand what was happening, and I knew that it was my responsibility to protect them and shield them from the pain and anger that was swirling around us. I took a deep breath and tried to calm down, reminding myself that this wasn't just about me, it was about Sarah too. We had been together for so long, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. But the stress of our daily lives and the constant demands of our careers had taken a toll on us, and we were both struggling to cope. That day, she said that I was trying to limit her freedom and ambitions. This all became a very bad sign for me. Perhaps this is where it was worth stopping and gaining the courage to resolve issues with actions, not words. But I couldn't. She also did nothing, and we continued to live. Sarah grew colder and colder, and I began to suspect that she had someone else. For a long time, I blamed it on my own madness. She can't cheat on me. Yes, we're going through a difficult period, but this person is not like that. What a fool I was. Winter holidays have arrived. We sent our children to the mountains to a pioneer camp for 2 weeks. Sarah started her vacation from work. But I have a business. There are no vacations here. Those who run their own business will understand me here. In general, something told me that she had someone. She began to act too cheerfully, as if she were alive again. But this life passed me by. When I left, she could just kiss me on the cheek. I did not feel that this joy was with me. I don't know how to explain exactly, but I think you understand me. I pushed aside any thoughts that she was cheating on me until one day I decided to walk home from work, and standing on the road was the neighbor boy Dave. He was about 16 years old, a smart guy. He had a loose chain on his bicycle and could not tighten it. I went up to help him, and while I was pulling the chain, he told me that he saw my wife with some man. He picked her up. She, beautifully dressed, quickly got into the Volkswagen, and they drove off somewhere. At that moment, I thought I was going to break the chain on Dave's bike. I felt like a bomb had just exploded inside me. My heart raced, and my hands shook as I tried to process what Dave was saying. I had never suspected that Sarah was cheating on me, and the idea of her with another man was like a stab in the gut. As I stood there, struggling to keep my composure, I couldn't help but wonder how long this had been going on. Had she been lying to me all this time? Had I been a fool to trust her so completely? I took a deep breath and tried to focus on the task at hand, tightening the chain on Dave's bike. But my mind was racing, and I couldn't concentrate on anything but the image of Sarah with another man. As I worked, I felt a surge of anger welling up inside me. How dare she do this to me? How dare she betray my trust and shatter our family? I could feel the tension rising within me, and I knew that I needed to do something to release it. So I took a deep breath and started to tighten the chain with all my might. I wouldn't ask her anything. In any case, she would have excused herself. She would have come up with something with her projects and so on. So I decided to take things seriously and respond to dishonesty with dishonesty. I installed cameras in our bedroom and living room that record sound. I needed a huge amount of text with all details and interesting narration to listen to. I began my research and found the best cameras that could capture high-quality audio and video. I purchased 2 state-of-the-art cameras and set them up in strategic locations in our bedroom and living room. I made sure that they were hidden and that Sarah wouldn't be able to find them easily. I also installed a software program on my computer that allowed me to monitor the cameras remotely. This way, I could watch and listen to everything that was happening in our home, even when I was at work or out with friends. As the days went by, I became more and more obsessed with monitoring Sarah's every move. I would spend hours watching her interact with her friends and colleagues, trying to catch her in the act of cheating. But no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find any evidence that she was being unfaithful. However, one day, I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. I saw Sarah talking to a man on the phone, and the way she was laughing and flirting with him made it clear that she was attracted to him. She even mentioned that she was looking forward to seeing him soon. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had been so careful, so meticulous in my efforts to catch Sarah cheating, and yet I had missed the most obvious sign of all. Until one day, something happened that just made me furious. I was the angriest person at that moment. Having resolved some business issues, I decided to look at the cameras to see what was happening there. I noticed that for some reason my wife was wearing beautiful stockings and lingerie. My head became foggy. She sat down to put on her makeup. Even then, I realized that I needed to go, and I drove home by car. I couldn't believe what I was seeing during car ride. I saw a tall, large man enter the house from the backyard, while Sarah was lying on our bed and adjusting her stockings. My head became foggy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Sarah was cheating on me, and I had the proof to show for it. I was already approaching the house, and from the cameras I saw how my wife, dressed in underwear and stockings, jumped into the arms of this man, and he laid her on the bed. I jumped out of the car and ran home. I entered through the open door at the back so that nothing could be heard as I opened the doors. Having run into the bedroom, this idiot was already taking off his pants. I flew into him at full speed. With a strong blow, I turned him around and hit him in the jaw. The guy was big. He didn't understand what happened when I added a couple of jabs and hit him in the stomach. Sarah started screaming at me not to touch him and not to let him get away. I hit him hard, and he ran away and kicked me. In general, I took out all my anger on him. My wife was sitting on the bed, wearing beautiful lingerie, makeup and hair, and looking past me. I looked at her, but felt nothing except anger and the desire to burn everything here along with her. I just said a few words. "This is the end. Pack your things, we're getting a divorce." She just started crying. I left the house, walked around it, making sure that this bastard had really escaped. I didn't care who it was. I got into the car and drove to the lake where I walked with my father as a child. For the last 15 years, I cried for the first time. I remembered everything that happened in my life. I felt sorry not so much for myself as for the children. I had to explain to them why their mother was not with us in the house and what she had done. The eldest daughter would definitely understand me, but the youngest son, I know that he loved his mother very much. In general, then the courts and showdowns with her parents began. I had all the records that I wanted to show at the trial, but for the sake of the children I didn't do it. I didn't want them to know that their mother, you understand. The court decided that the children should remain with me since I had a stronger position and a good lawyer. Despite all the hatred towards her, I allowed the children to see her whenever they wanted and whenever she wanted, but with one condition. She would not set foot on the threshold of my house. I saw how bad my children were without her. I told my eldest daughter everything. She understood me, which made me very happy. At that time, my son seemed to be 5 years old and he really needed his mother, so outside of the court order, I simply took him to Sarah's parents where she lived, and he came to me on weekends. He liked it better that way. In general, this is my story. Think for yourself, judge for yourself.
Thank you for watching. If you like the story, subscribe to the channel, give it a like and of course share it with your friends. See you tomorrow.